Every day, ordinary people make extraordinary choices as they negotiate unpredictable pathways to the peak of their expectations without ever taking the time to enjoy the view. Join me, Tish Tindall, at this panoramic viewpoint of astonishing personal and professional progress as we find out why my next guest is living the fabulous life. Carolyn Maitland, star of Screen and everything else. How are you? Are you in London this evening, darling?
I'm in West London. I'm Chiswick based, which is lovely.
Looking beautiful in blue.
Thank you. I'm in my bedroom. This was my New Year's painting job last year. So what am I going to do this year?
Well, you know, it's wonderful to talk to you. I'm a huge fan, as is the rest of the world. And I wanted to know, I mean, I read that you were born on the Isle of Wight. Is that right?
Yep, born on the Isle of Wight and lived there up until the age of 15, when I then went away to Camberley in Surrey to go to the Elmhurst Ballet School. And,
yes, I read that. And were you inspired by the Isle of Wight? Because the coastline is absolutely stunning.
Inspired in what way towards
with creativity?
Yeah, I'm very much, I love nature and I get so inspired, but when the weather's nice or there's a nice sunset and, you know, it can turn my mood around, the same as music and dancing, all the things. I think it's something, because I grew up on the Isle of Wight surrounded by countryside and water, my environment can make me feel really good or not. So
I've always thought,
in a way, yes, I am.
When I've been watching you perform, Carolyn, that you are inspired by something. I'm not sure what it is, but the vocal resonance that you give the audience is outstanding, and it must come from somewhere. Are you inspired by anything in particular?
Yeah, well, I think I love the feeling. I love the feeling of losing myself in a character, and then if I'm doing something where I get to sing, it's another layer. It's another layer that brings a character to life. And I think a lot of times people don't quite realize, if you can just manipulate the sound that little bit more to give it a rougher tone or a lighter tone, it can just add that little extra layer, and it is a feeling. I think my favorite times on stage and singing are when I don't actually I don't know I'm singing. I'm not thinking about singing the notes. They just happen because they feel right. So I suppose that's pretty spiritual in a way, isn't it? But I definitely connect to the people around me and my environment, and I play off of the feelings around me. So yeah, in that sense, I suppose I am.
And do you think it had anything to do with that? Do you think growing up where you did had anything to do with that?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. And also I think my parents probably have a lot to do with it as well. Just, I find I have a lot of time for people and things around me, and I love absorbing new things. And I don't think we'll never stop learning. We're always learning as we go, and I think I thrive off that. And I think part of that is growing up on the Isle of Wight, being active, always trying every different sport, every hobby. I'm super crafty. I love art. Like, I do definitely thrive off of all forms of arts, and being in the outdoors environment, yeah, it has to help. I think you see things more colourfully, I think.
And your performances are so colourful. I mean, they're a gift, actually. You know, they're a gift to the song, and they're a gift to the audience. Do you think you've always been able to bring that kind of emotion to a song?
I don't think I've ever really thought about it until the last like 15 years maybe. I think growing up, I'm very much go in the moment and enjoy it and grow. So I don't think I ever focused on how I was affecting people. You just, you know, I think it's like surrounding yourself with like-minded people.
Yeah.
You thrive, don't you? So
yeah.
I think I've always been quite bubbly and putting out lots of energy and stuff, and I think that carries through into the way I perform. And I think when I hear people saying how much they enjoyed it and how much it's affected them, that feels great, because that's what I want to do, and it's nice to hear, to know it's coming across correctly. So
Well, more than correctly, darling, because your reviews are also outstanding. You know, every part that you play, it seems to be that people say that, that it was worth buying the ticket for, you know, to hear that or to see you perform. And I wanted to tell you a story about going to see the new production of Miss Saigon when I did. When I was training, I was very much training at the time when Miss Saigon was just being developed, and you know, Les Miserables was just finally sort of out there as a full scale production, and it was a huge part of my life, and as such, I have a great you know, a great depth of feeling for it. So fast forward over, you know, many years, and I decided I would go and see this production again and take somebody who hadn't seen the production at all. And I wasn't sure what I was going to see. And all I can say is that I must have seen Miss Saigon so many times and so in love with the songs, you know, It's Her or Me became Now That I've Seen Her and all of these things. And then you sang. And it just stopped me in my tracks. You know, you sang Maybe, and I saw that character from a whole different angle. And I will never, ever forget that moment, ever. Because everything that I thought I knew about the show, everything that I felt I knew, you know, I'm a writer, composer, musician myself, everything that I thought I understood about this thing, you blew out of the water, Carolyn. And I quite frankly think I've never got over it, darling.
thank you. You made me a little bit teary. Um, thank you.
You
That's
know,
really.
and I remember, you know, stalking you at the time, and I wrote to you, I think it was via Twitter, and you were so nice. I told you the story, and you were so lovely, but it meant so much to me that the person I took with me also experienced that.
Mhm.
And you know, what I think I would like to know is, how did you redevelop that role? You know, how did you take on that role, that enormous role, and do with it what you did?
Well, I actually never saw the original, but my fiance worked on it. He was a sound engineer on it, so I knew it was very special to him. When I got introduced to the new song, obviously it was with the first cast, and Tamsin Carroll was playing, and I was understudying her. From the very audition process through to the actual shows, I saw about 5 or 6 reiterations of the song. And so I really got to grow and learn with Ellen. And just from seeing reviews and hearing people's past response of Ellen, Ellen can be quite a hard character to feel for, and without hating, because
Yes.
she's in so little, so the time she's on stage she has to connect with the audience straight away, so it's a challenge in a different way to a massive role when they're on stage all the time. But two, she's always seen as, you know, she was there for, well, she wasn't there first, I suppose, but it's not her problem, but she's always seen as the bad guy for taking
Yes.
away the love. And you know, this poor young girl has had a baby and has just
Yeah.
been abandoned.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was really important to connect with it. And actually, I found I just had to put myself into it, because I've got such a humongous heart. I
Mm.
think I just put how I would feel. Like finding out about this girl, yes, I'd be hurt, but I'd feel just as sorry or more for her, because this girl was young, and you know, she was in a war-torn country, and she became pregnant at a very young age, and she didn't have the person there with her. And I just, yeah, I just put myself in it. And I have to say, Miss Saigon was an amazing stepping stone for me.
Mm.
I've been in the industry for like 17 years pretty much, and I'd done a lot of understudying, and I started out just basic ensemble, couple of covers, and it built up. And then Saigon was one of those big stepping stones for me to really dive into a character. And I actually went a little bit method, if you like, because she's on stage so little. I would come on for I Still Believe, the little scene in the bed. There's no words as such, it's just singing, so you have to feel the feeling straight away. You have to see that she's genuinely worried about her husband having nightmares, then see her concern. And then after that point, I would go off stage back to my changing room, and I would talk to an imaginary Chris. I'd have conversations with him about it and explore all the different parts, because one of the really difficult things about something that you just have to pluck out the emotion, you have to be there, and after doing it 1,000 times the same, you have to dredge up the emotion from different points. So I learned so much about connecting and performing, and singing maybe in particular is one of the first times I'd walk on stage and I never remembered singing. It was just how I felt.
Well, I think your audience remembered it, darling, very much. And it had a momentous effect on how I approached, musical theatre, and I'm sure it has done with so many people all over the world. Do you think there's ever been a time in your life where you have been nervous or suffered through lack of confidence and haven't been able to delve into a role maybe the way you did with Ellen?
All the time, even with Ellen. And I don't think those effects ever go. However experienced you get, I suppose my advantage now of having done a lot, when I do get those pangs of nerves and the fear, letting fear creep in, you can just remind yourself, no, remembering the things people have said about you, how they felt about things. Even too, I did a Zoom call last week, and technology was not in my favor, and it was horrendous. Like anybody who sings, when you warm up, if you're nervous, your larynx can go really high, like when you sing high, and then you can't drop it down again. You can't talk properly, and so that affects your singing. And you can kind of, you work with it and you make it happen. But so I still get affected a lot by that. So
and
I
that
think
will be
that's
so inspiring for people who are, training in the industry. And we have a performing arts college up here, and when I told the students that you were going to be on the show, oh my goodness, they were just absolutely blown away. I don't think there's enough emojis actually on a student chat when you tell people you're going to be speaking to Carolyn Maitland. And I think it'll be wonderful for them to hear that, that is the case and still is the case for you. How do you think you've built up resilience in the industry? Is this something that comes from way back, or is it something new that you've developed?
I think it's a combination of things. Listening to people and learning from other people's experiences is great. And you have to find what works for you. So in particular with nerves, people can say about breathing exercises, they can be helpful to try and calm yourself. But I've found the more you do something, the easier it is. It's inevitable. And that's the same with acting, that's the same with singing, that's the same with, just speaking to strangers, being yourself, relaxing. Practice makes progress is the way to see it. Not practice makes perfect. Nobody's perfect. Imperfections are what make you unique and make people feel for you. So I think in particular, if you're thinking about your students, I think I've done workshops before and people have been worried, saying, I don't look the same as everybody on stage. And I'm like, embrace if you're taller, shorter, bigger, smaller, because that can play into you. And then also qualities with your voice or something that makes you unique. Find your quirk, learn how to blend it with everybody else. And I think if you're focusing on all these other things, and most importantly, the story of what you're telling, your nerves take a back seat. They'll be there, 100% be there. You get sweaty palms. I get like the sweat droplets that just come from no reason. It's like a tap under your arms. Dry mouth. I mean, I've got it now. Even now, just because I'm talking about something and it's a mixture of exciting adrenaline and nervous adrenaline, because you're like, I have a real habit of, I get excited and I just gabble. So sometimes I'm like, I think I've answered your question, but I've probably just gone on a little bit of a rampage. And I mean, that happens in auditions and things as well. something that might be useful for people, I have found, if you find a strong character that you ever get to read in a rehearsal or you do on stage, and you remember a tiny little chunk of their monologue or their song, I find it's really good to just take a moment to speak that character somewhere in the toilet or something before an audition or going on stage. And I find it grounds me. And then I layer on the other character or myself, because I find that it roots me to something that's not connected to my emotions as such. I know this character is strong, so it's like having a little friend who can help you and hold your hand. That's something that I found has really helped me. So.
And
I could probably dredge up loads
when you
more.
maybe
Sorry.
Well, listen, we'd love to have you up at the college. You know, when in times when you maybe haven't been as successful with the lead roles, or in times when you maybe haven't got the role at all, how have you survived? What did you do to get over that?
I always say I believe in fate, and I think most artistic people, performers, will always say the same. It's not meant to be. The next thing's coming. And I think sometimes that's incredibly hard, because you do get a ridiculous amounts of knockbacks and not even getting any response from auditions and things. You just have to take from what you've learned, what you've gained, and move forwards. And also, if you prepare as much as you physically can, you know the words inside and out, you've connected with the character, you know how it makes you feel. If you've done all the groundwork, there's nothing more you could have done. If anything else that happens on the day, it's out of your control.
And you know, when you look back though, you know, even just from today, when you look back over the years that you've been involved in the business, did you ever feel like giving up? You know, okay, I know that might happen most days, but was there ever a time when you really thought about giving up?
No. I think also I'm extremely determined. I've always been competitive from a young age. I used to go to the mainland, as we call England, like coming from the Isle of Wight, the main. We come over to the mainland. I do runs cross-country runs every weekend with my dad and my sister. Always been super, super competitive. And I think this is a different type of competitive. I'm competitive against myself, how I can keep pushing myself, how I can grow. And so I'll never really try and do exactly the same role twice. And if I can help it, I'll try and have a bigger challenge the next time. I think it's really important to step out of your comfort zone. And so for that reason, if something's not gone quite as I planned or expected it to, then I find it as a challenge to go, what can I do different? So I don't think I've ever gone, yes, I've had moments where I'm extremely low, and you will cry, and you will, there's some moments when you're in between jobs and you're like on a blooming roller coaster, because one minute you're happy because you're pushing yourself to be motivated, and we're only human, and you can't be constantly yes all the time. You have to have those downs. But the downs make you really appreciate the ups. And it's the same with when you're working. You really appreciate it if you've had the time that you can't get the jobs, that you're not getting seen for things, you're not even getting in the door, or you know, something's not right.
And you know, for anybody who has seen you or who's listening to this or watching this, you know, you have this quality, this effusive determination, which is really inspiring for so many reasons. And to watch you as a performer is a joy, and it's an education as well as entertainment. It's everything. It kind of, you know, hits all your senses with this enormous, you know, color palette. It's just really something that is more than a voice. It's a thing, you know. It's a creation, and it's a fabulous creation. When you look back on what you've done, what would you say was fabulous?
Oh, all of it, for different reasons, even the horrible bits. I think the most fabulous thing is a sense of achievement, like from having just watched somebody in passing and gone, oh, that looks good, I'm going to try that, or taking something on board, and then it worked really well. And then the audience response, actually, oh gosh, there's so many things. Because one of the magic things about theatre is every show, even though you're doing the same structure every day, changes because of the audience members. And sometimes you can get the most incredible feeling coming back off of the people watching. That's fabulous. And then things like when I've been a swing twice, being thrown on and doing multiple different roles. Like there were times in Legally Blonde at the Savoy that I was on as four or five different characters and swapping the lines, and your brain realizing what's fabulous is really realizing how amazing your brain is. Like being given the shortest amount of time to learn something and go, I'm never going to do it, and you do. But then, or being a swing and learning everybody's tracks on stage, and then being on stage and just kind of relaxing, and something clicks and you go, our bodies and our brains are ridiculous. That's fabulous. That's really fabulous.
Yeah, that is really, really fabulous. And you know, listen to you speak about this. It's an incredible thing to hear, because not not often do we get to talk to somebody who is like you, and for students, they probably wouldn't always get the chance to be involved in a conversation with yourself. How important do you think it is to be kind the way that you have been to come on the show?
Oh, 100%. But you get so much from it. I think sometimes people think, you know, I don't know. I find that if I'm talking to students or even other performers and they're just wanting to voice something, you learn from that as well. I think you will get more out of life and work and theatre and singing and everything if you're willing to give. You get tenfold back. It's all mind over matter. It's how you think about it. Suppose you could think, if you're particularly stressed or busy, then you're like, I just don't have the time for that, understandably. But if you can make the time for it, you always feel better. It's like if Christmas, everybody goes, oh, this year, my New Year's resolution, I'm gonna go to the gym. And to start with, you're like, oh, I really can't go. But if you go, you feel really good. It's the same with helping people and being open to talking to people, and nurturing. And I wouldn't have grown as much as I had if there weren't lovely people around me that I felt comfortable enough to watch. And if I felt like you're always on tiptoes if you want to ask a question, but some people make me feel so welcome. I could just go, pardon me, I would just go, do you mind if I just ask you a question? And I think it's incredibly important to be open and warm. The day I don't, I think there's something very wrong.
So, Carolyn, what's happening in the future? We've had COVID and everything that's gone with that, but I know you've been really busy. Can you tell us what you've been getting up to?
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously, there's been very little in the way of theatre over the last nine or so months. So I've been really trying to get more experience on screen. And I started being a production runner for short films and acting in concept shorts and things. And I met a lovely American actor in LA. He's from LA, but he was actually in the UK, and I was audition reading for him, and we got chatting, and we wrote and produced a period short film together. And so we shot that in October, and it's in post-production now. Like if anybody follows me on Instagram and stuff, you'll see odd pictures and bits and pieces, but that should be finalized and hopefully out by Christmas. So keep your eyes open for a bit of a period film.
Oh wow, can't wait to see it.
I just hope it's good.
Darling, with you in it, it's going to be fabulous. I can tell you that.
It's incredibly scary. And this is it's one of those things. I'm comfortable on stage now, and all over the years I've learned from everybody around me, but I've done very little in front of the camera. And so I just hope it comes across like I do on stage.
Oh, I'm sure it will. And I look forward to seeing you in so many more films. That's going to be something truly fabulous.
Call me, film producers.
Carolyn Maitland, all I can say to you is I am overjoyed that you were so kind to take the time to speak to me today. And I know this will have a huge impact on many people who are learning in the industry, but also to audience members who have and have not seen you perform. And I'm just, and will always be eternally grateful that I have seen you perform. So Carolyn Maitland, from up here in Lossiemouth to you down in London, I just want to say you are living a fabulous life, and thank you very much.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. That's really lovely. Thanks for having me on board. I just hope it's been as insightful as a couple of the other interviews I watched of yours on your chat show on YouTube. Everybody go and have a watch. There's some great stuff on there.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Maybe this time I'll be lucky. Maybe this time you'll stay. Maybe this time, for the first time, love won't hurry away. He will hold me fast. I'll be home at last. Not a loser anymore, like the last time and the time before. Everybody loves a winner, so nobody loved me. Lady peaceful, lady happy, and that's what I long to be. All the odds are in my favor. Something's bound to begin. It's gonna happen sometime. Maybe this time I'll win. Everybody loves a winner, so nobody loved me. Lady peaceful, lady happy, that's what I long to